Hi, folks. This is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report. You know, there's a lot of new rods on the market. And when I go to sports shows and I try to tell you about why rods are different, but I'll tell you, I bet you some of you haven't ever thought of this. But one of the ways people that are selling rods get people to try them and to get interested in them is that what they will do is they will put the tip of the rod. They'll have the person that might be looking at it hold the rod in his hand. They'll say, just hold it completely still. Then they'll stand at the other end of the rod and they'll put the tip up to their throat, right at, if they're the guy, right up to their Adam's apple. And they'll say, okay, now, and they'll start talking. And the guy holding the rod, if it's a good rod and the kind that they want to sell them, then the guy will start feeling all kinds of vibration come up through the rod and into their hand. And they're like, wow. And the guy will say, can you feel that? Can you feel that? And they'll respond and say, yeah, I can't believe it. Well, good graphite, and by good graphite, what I'm talking about, the right mixture, and you got to be careful. If you make it too much graphite, it'll become so brittle, it'll break. But if you have just the right blend, which comes with a lot of times higher priced rods, they will transmit every vibration back to your hand. And that's the beauty of a rod. If you can find a rod like that, it becomes your buddy. It becomes your friend. You never will take another rod. You're always going to use that because you can feel every little thing the lure is doing. You can feel it move along the rocks. You can feel a fish come up and inhale it, take it in. And with fiberglass, you're not going to feel that the same. It isn't as sensitive. It doesn't transmit that signal the same that graphite does. But to go to a show and watch, it's almost like watching a carnival act when you see some of these salesmen with these rods do that same dog and pony act. But if people have never seen it or felt it, it's really impressive. Bottom line is, when you're selecting a rod, I think it's really important that it do what you want it to do. If you want to use light, sensitive baits, and you need a rod that can transmit that signal. If you're trolling, if you're doing something a bit different where the boat's doing most of the work, you don't need that sensitivity as much because a strike will be very, very apparent to you once you're under speed. Then you need something that either is going to be flexible enough to absorb the shock of the fish hitting and not pull the hook out of its mouth because the rod's too stiff. There's so many factors that are involved. But I think the sensitivity factor is pretty amazing. And if you've never tried it, you ought to, because it might give you a better idea of what rod you're using and if it's one that's good for what you're trying or not. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report.